Since 1994, some of the biggest names in NASCAR have helped build their legacies here. Gordon and Jarrett, Stewart and Johnson, Harvick and Busch. Drivers from across the motorsports world, whether real or virtual, dream of winning here. It takes the right balance of talent, strategy, and luck to win at this fabled 2.5-mile rectangular oval. Who will have their dreams come true tonight? We're about to find out here on the Global SimRacing Channel. We welcome you to the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Speedway, Indiana for Round 4 of the Precision Racing League Cup Series season. Sponsored by Ford Entertainment Group PC. I'm Justin Prinzel. On set of the booth tonight is Nicholas Schmeg. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. This is a very challenging track for these competitors for their cup cars. Let's take a look at the GSRC lap guide for the best way to see how things could shape out and the best way to drive around Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see our guide around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The first motorsports competition at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway took place in 1909. The track's original surface of crushed stone and tar proved problematic. The owners paved the track with more than 3 million bricks, giving rise to the nickname the Brickyard. Indy isn't known for its banking, with only 9 degrees of banking in all 4 corners. Indy is unique because those 4 corners are individual corners. Each is separated by a short chute. Turn 1, you find yourself battling tunnel vision with the grandstands and pit road on both sides of the track closing in as you're trying to hit your mark. Turn 2 and down the backstretch, the drivers are often facing wind. Turns 3 and 4, also known as the north end of the speedway, flow exactly like turns 1 and 2. Surviving 2 world wars, 10 popes, and older than sliced bread, Indianapolis Motor Speedway is the most historic racing venue in America. Stepping onto the hallowed grounds of Indy, you feel over the 100 years of history. Winning at Indy requires all of the luck, skill, drive, and determination that you have. Many have come to taste the milk and have left empty-handed. The yard of bricks at the start-finish line pays tribute to the original surface. Kissing the bricks at Indianapolis Motor Speedway after your victory has quickly become an Indy tradition. With that being said, that's just scratching the surface of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And when you think about it, all these drivers are just chasing a glass of milk over 3 feet of bricks. It's amazing how those simple things mean so much to so many people. This has been our guide to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Strap on in and enjoy the show.
That was a look at your GSRC lap guide for Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Now let's bring in my broadcast partner for tonight, Nicholas Schmeg, as these drivers get ready to tackle one of the most difficult tracks in all of iRacing for stock cars.
Absolutely. One of the most difficult, but also one of the most historic, because we're back home again in Indiana, at least home for many people in motorsports, not so much for everyone in the NASCAR world. Like you mentioned, NASCAR didn't even race here until 1994. The Brickyard 400 won by then the hometown boy, Jeff Gordon. And on the map there, you see that every turn here, it looks the same. Every turn, though, from the driver's perspective, it feels so different. 9-degree banking, very flat. But they've all got different visibility heading into the turn. And that combination makes it really difficult to pass here because these cars are so heavy. They want to slide up towards that wall and climb that very slight hill that is the banking here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, here at the Brickyard. And so with passing at a premium, it makes this track very punishing. You can slide up and hit that wall just a touch and lose a ton of positions. You can't get out of the groove like we see in IndyCar. Sometimes they can muscle around the outside here, not so much in these heavier, more muscular stock cars. It's incredibly hard to make up ground here. It's so easy to lose it. And, you know, the Brickyard 400, like you said, it's one of the most difficult tracks on iRacing. It's one of the most frustrating races from a driver's perspective. But for Justin, but for you and I, Justin, I'm looking forward to this one.
It's going to be a very intriguing race. We'll get to more of the details in just a few moments or so. But today's race sponsor is FEG PC, offering sim racing PCs for every budget. Whether you're just getting started or you're ready for that monster machine or anything in between, we've got your budget covered. More than 3,000 iRacers are currently running FEG PCs, including some iRacing staff members. Get yours today using the contact page over at fegpc.net. This series is also sponsored by Diecast Kings, your home for the best selection of NHRA and NASCAR diecast cars at diecastkings.com. Once again, that's diecastkings.com. You can also find them on Facebook at facebook.com/diecastking. This series is also sponsored as well by Road Trip Transport. Whether a tractor or a truck or anything in between, we can move it. Specializing in all kinds of flatbed freight. Call Road Trip Transport at 251-525-7429. Also find them on Facebook at facebook.com/road-trip-transport-inc. And lastly, this series also sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products include incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat to feel what you've been missing. Go to thebuttkicker.com. Let's take a look towards the driver's standings on that mark to see what you may have missed in the past few rounds of the season, and boy oh boy, it's been a tight one. After an exciting race at Pocono, which seen Richard Regan Jr. lead 35 of 49 laps in an attrition-filled event, the point standings are now tied by the two drivers who have won the first three rounds. James O'Brien winning at Chicagoland, of course, in round two. Bradley Hawley is in second, also tied up with Joshua Daniels, marking three of the four AthleteBooker.com eSports team drivers inside the top five. And then you have Abner Acosta, one of the Level Motorsports drivers and independent in this series, rounding out the top five. The team standings have also been fairly interesting so far, and that it's been a dominant start for those AthleteBooker.com eSports machines. 3 combined wins, 5 combined top 5s, 8 combined top 10s in 3 races so far. Sees them up by 49 points in the standings. Wetback Jelly Rolls Racing looking to roll their way forward and pull away from SGE eSports. By the end of the day, that's a separation of about 11 points from second to third. Carl Ramrod's 63 points back of the top pylon. In fourth, Brighton Shotgun Rangers rounds out the top 5. Now, with that, let's talk about the race details, Nicholas, because with how tight this could be, it could be really interesting how the strategy plays out tonight.
Yeah, it certainly could. These lap times, they're not the 40-second lap times you're used to seeing around Indianapolis in an Indy car. They're going to be more like 50 seconds, and that's still pushing it. They're going to be, more towards 53, 54 seconds once they get on old tires. That's assuming we stay green. We've got a lot of laps out there today, 50 of them, 125-mile race. They've got fixed setups. Hopefully they don't have too much understeer on those cars. They're already going to be dealing with a lot of dirty air. I said it's a punishing track. No fast repairs. They're going to have to keep their wits about them. 24 incident limit, I'm not sure that's going to matter with no fast repair. But round 4 of 10, these drivers starting to roll here in the season, and points are definitely going to become more and more of something in the back of their minds.
And don't forget, there is a drop week factored into the championship standings by the end of the campaign. But before we talk more about the details, practice has also been fairly tight so far, separated amongst the top 5 by only about under 0.3 of a second. But are you looking to take advantage of GSRC's over 1 million global monthly impressions? From official series to sponsorships to commercial placements, we have advertising options customizable to suit your company's needs. Follow the link in the description below to learn more for this broadcast. With that, though, these drivers have been taking a lot of time, Nicholas, to learn this racetrack. And it's been difficult how things have been shaping out.
Yeah, it certainly is. This is a very narrow track, especially that front straightaway. Very narrow for these drivers. It makes it difficult to look into turn 1 and get down in there and get a good groove. It's easy to slide up there. Turn 3 is, you'd think it would be easier, but it's so open, and these drivers really like to go down there, really press the limits, really do as much as they can. You'll see a lot of drivers maybe go 3 wide. They'll have to be aggressive early because that dirty air is really going to bite them, especially with the package they have right now on these Cup cars. It makes for some interesting pack racing around here, but it's going to make for some very difficult passing.
Let's take a look towards the track conditions. About 30 seconds left in the practice session. It's a hot one, Nicholas. And one thing to keep in mind, wind not usually a factor in this series, but with how hot this track is, it can be difficult for some of these cars because the crazy thing is, with this package at this track, Nicholas, the hotter it is, the tighter drivers are reported the car feeling.
Yeah, you have a lot of understeer here. You have a lot of dirty air, like I mentioned, but this car likes to snap here at Indianapolis as well. It's just a very odd feeling. 550 horsepower is still a lot of power for these cars to muscle around these 90-degree turns, and with 121-degree track temperature, that's only going to make the rear end want to step out even more. They're going to have to be careful, especially in traffic.
Qualifying just about to get underway as these drivers have preparated for more than 2+ hours for tonight. Abner Acosta was the quickest in practice. Bradley Hawley, Richard Regan Jr., Pat Harvey, James O'Brien rounded out the top 5. But track position here with this package is very crucial, Nicholas. We've talked about how tight it can be. The amount of aero push in the traffic is very big. And that is why a lot of drivers, I think, are going to put a lot of pressure on qualifying their car up towards the front.
Oh, certainly. That driver, whoever gets the, kind of like we say in motocross, it gets the whole shot. Not necessarily the pole sitter, but it's most likely gonna be the pole sitter that gets the whole shot through turn number 1. That not only obviously is he gonna have an advantage, of course, being the leader of the race, but the clean air he'll have. It just makes it so much easier. That is one thing that IndyCar and NASCAR really do share here at this track is the clean air. It's just a huge advantage for the driver, for the car, for the tires, for everything moving forward in the race, especially if it stays green.
Mind you, the lap times estimate around 51 to 54 seconds from the beginning of a run to the end of a run, give or take. Could see as times go as far as 55 to 56 seconds. Now, also something to talk about here has been some of the strong performances in the past couple races for some of these teams. Brandon Adams showed some good speed at Pocono last race. It was a non-broadcasted event for that specific round, but that team's seen flashes inside the top 10. As well, Daniel Knight, who was 6th quickest in practice, was one of the top drivers at Pocono as well, where he was contending inside the top 3 the entire race. After the riding shotgun machine in the 17, also, mind you, too, came away with the Truck Series victory as well.
Yeah, a lot of these teams in PRL, they are very strong. Riding shotgun, of course, we see them a lot on iRacing, especially here on GSRC. A lot of big names over there. We've seen them in the major series. And certainly that is going to help them really prevail here in the PRL Cup Series.
Take a look at Adam Shane specifically right now. One driver that's looking for a bit of luck entering tonight. It's been a roller coaster season on the campaign, to say the very least, though. One of the drivers that is looking to set their first time, meanwhile, Brandon T. Adams. Just talking about him, already a 51.6 on the first lap. Second time around, we'll see if they're able to bump it on up. Currently, the separation amongst the top 5, about half a second to Abner Acosta's 51.2. That was around the same pace as in practice, a 51.7 the second time around. And one of the main things, too, again, is drivers were warned today, Nicholas, to be careful the first couple laps in this race. The same can be said for qualifying with how much we've seen so many cars getting right up to against the wall on the corner exits today.
Yeah, absolutely. These drivers, they're going to be going out on cold tires, of course, just like any other race. Like I said, with the high temperatures here in Indianapolis and just really the nature of the track, no matter what the temperature is here, it boils down to just the nature of the beast here at the Brickyard. Stock cars here are just, it's the combination is really ridiculous. It's crazy, and it's a lot of fun to drive, at least when you're by yourself. When you're trying to pass other cars on track, it might get a little frustrating, especially when you're all bunched up together here to start the race. That's why you're seeing so many drivers really contend for this pole. Abner Acosta up there right now. He's got a nice 1/10 of a second gap over Daniel Knight, it looks like.
Absolutely right now. Richard Regan Jr. P3, Bradley Hawley P4 at the moment. James O'Brien rounding out the top 5 as Adam Zemke now pulls off after his qualifying laps. 3 drivers not to set times yet. That's the 39 of David Wilson Jr. He's not on track. Charles Sumner is on track. Adam Young had a crash in practice, not on track. So Sumner, the only one out of the drivers not to record a time in the 27 entries. and now joins the 25 times on the board with a 51.9. That is way off the pace, 7/10, Nicholas.
Yeah, definitely going to have to do better than that. And, you know, it's going to hurt him at the start. But a lot of these drivers, one thing we might see if we get a green flag run, unlike last week at Pocono, it's a similar track as we see Doyle Lawrence get it really sideways there off of turn 4. That's what they're going to have to watch for. And I was about to talk about the tire wear. If we do have a green flag run, the right side tires, especially the right front tire, are going to be toast. And they have got to you know, there's going to be different strategies when it comes to tires. Maybe you want to be conservative at the start, but then again, aggressiveness is going to get you track position. They've just got to be careful.
Drivers have now wrapped up qualifying. Let's take a look at how they'll start for tonight's action. Track position was key for the top contenders. In part Y, 25 of the 27 entrants put in times. Abner Acosta set the pole time tonight with a 51.232. Daniel Nart starts in second spot with Richard Regan Jr. starting in third. Riley Hawley starts in fourth. James O'Brien in the fifth spot. That's two of the AthleteBooker.com eSports machines in that grouping. Danny Cervantes starts in sixth. Mark Kalin in seventh. Brandon T. Adams in eighth. Joshua Daniels falling down the order in qualifying. 4/10 off the pole in ninth. And Jay Felton inside the top 10 in points. Starts inside the top 10 for this race, Nicholas.
Drivers that has some success over in the PRL Truck Series is Robert Basal Jr. He's going to start 11th today at the Brickyard alongside Pat Harvey and in front of Mike Knight and Scotty Johnson in the 07. 15th place going to go to Adam Zemke. Brett Adams going to line up alongside of him in row number 8. Stephen Durbin, Josh Slade, Adam Schoen, and Colton Lane will round out the top 20.
Rest of the grid lines up as falls 21st, Charles Sumner of 51.9. Then the rest of the drivers in the 52 flats or no times. Doyle Lawrence starts 22nd. Long-time series veteran on the iRacing service as well for about a decade. Blaine Adams 23rd. Chad Brown 24th. Jose Medina starts 25th. David A. Wilson Jr. and Adam Young did not set qualifying times for this event. That's a look at the 14 rows of drivers for today. Again, 50 laps the distance, 125 miles of racing on the docket, 9 degrees of banking in the corners. Track temp has dipped down between qualifying and the start of the race, down to 117 degrees. Partly cloudy skies as well, humidity 55%, wind at a default north direction at 2 miles an hour. Now it becomes the question here, Nicholas. What are your keys to victory if you want to be the person who gets to kiss the bricks by the end of the night?
I think you got to be aggressive here at the start. You know, everyone's going to be bunched up, and that might be your best opportunity for track position. That's one of my big flaws here at a track like this in this car from doing a couple of races myself is I go out there with the expectation that I have to be conservative. A couple of cautions will fall, and I'll realize that, man, I probably could have been more aggressive there at the start, and now I've got so much dirty air, I can't make these positions up. These drivers are going to have to be on it right from the start, and they're going to have to be strategic. Keep the long game in play. 50 laps here is a long time, 125 miles. They've got to keep the big picture in mind here as well.
Who are some of the drivers you're keeping an eye on tonight based on what we've seen in practice and qualifying, as well as what you've seen from the various other series and PRL competition from some of these competitors this week?
Well, it's certainly not any sports car series here today. I don't think we're going to see too many similarities between some of the sports car Formula 3 and, you know, other cars that these guys drive out there. A lot of diverse series that these drivers do, and a lot of them double up, triple up. Very cool to see some drivers jump over here like Abner Acosta, who we've seen have success over in the PRL GTE sports car series on Tuesday nights. And, well, now he's going to be starting from the pole at the Brickyard. I can't think of two cars that are too much different than that, but there you see Abner Acosta. He's ready to put that to the test and really show that he's going to be on it tonight.
Yeah, him and his team actually had a strong performance too in the Ivor Club Sports Summer Series just yesterday. A busy 4th of July weekend for many of these competitors as they look to celebrate at the Brickyard. Acosta in control of the field. Green flag is out. We're underway. Good jump for Acosta off the gun as Regan Jr. side by side for second. David Wilson Jr. already off the racetrack after the green flag as the fight for second sees the 46 clear.
Yeah, Daniel Knight gonna slide in line right behind there, right behind Richard Regan, and he's lucky that he's able to slide in line there. A lot of drivers that start in second place here get shuffled way outside the top 5. Great start for Daniel Knight, even though he lost a position.
And already first lap led going to Acosta, and you notice already the drivers drifting down some of the straightaways. With this package, it's so crucial to try and break the draft because of how big you can get a run by trying to follow the tire tracks. That's why you see them try and swerve down these long straightaways to try and break it up if they're close.
Yep, that's another similarity you'll see between someone like the Indy 500 racing here and the Brickyard 400 racing here. With the current Cup package that NASCAR is using. It makes for some interesting runs down into turn number 3 and turn number 1. You just got to watch out. If you're willing to make a move down there, you're going to have a bit of a shallow entry. You got to be careful you don't slide up. We'll see that more as these tires wear out here at the Brickyard.
Costa already separated by about 0.2 of a second at the front of the field. Knight in third. Hawley and O'Brien round out the top 5. 51.5s at the moment. At this point as well, Chad Brown still back in P2. Everyone else has stayed around that single file line. Here's the interesting point that we were alluding to earlier tonight, Nicholas. The strategy when it comes to this race could be interesting because the fuel is only 10 laps in to where you get the green window to make it.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to have to make a stop. The question is when, and how are you going to make your stops? How are you going to plan for that on your little crew chief itinerary around the cautions? You don't know when the cautions are going to come, but you know that they probably will, especially with how aggressive some of these drivers are going to have to be. Right now, we're seeing them single file, but when some of these drivers have their tires wear out, those right side tires, you're going to see a couple of moves down to the inside, and they might not all end well. Right now, I'm watching Bradley Holly be a little bit aggressive, trying to get around Daniel Knight. He's got a lot of pace back there in 4th place.
And trying to take a little bit of a lower line on the apex in 1 and 2. And this track has 4 distinct corners. They look the same, yes, visually, but you have to approach them completely different because if you try and repeat the same process to each and every corner, you're likely going to have a bad time, let's put it that way, with some of the different uniquenesses and bumps and caressnesses of those specific sections and the dips in the pavement and some of the corner exits.
And you want to take it flat out in this package as well. You just can't quite do it. Maybe for a lap you can get flat out into 1 and 2. That's about it. After that, your tires are going to wear, and you're going to have to really kind of pedal the throttle back and forth. And you're trying to keep those RPMs up, trying to keep the consistency up, because on a momentum track like this, you got to get a great launch out of turns 2 and 4. It's just so hard to do it. If not, you're going to get swallowed up like we're seeing Daniel Knight right now. Just as we watch right now between Abner Acosta and Richard Regan with a very similar situation up front.
Two-car trains right now. You see them now. The front grouping, Regan Jr. wants to get by Acosta. Acosta finished 11th at Pocono, looking to try and score what would be his first victory in this series on the oval side. Well, Daniel Knight, right behind him in the battle for third, just gained about a car length and a half. Now the difficult part, though, too, is once we get around this mark right here in the corners, dirty air is a major factor when it comes to this Cup car package, even more so when it comes to the Brickyard. Within 2-3 of a second of the car in front of you, you will have to fight a lot of tightness on the corner exits, especially 2 and 4.
Yeah, you're going to have a little bit of snap oversteer as well, which just makes for some, it's almost impossible to explain until you get behind the wheel of one of these machines. And right now, that's what Danny Cervantes is dealing with. Look at this, all the way down to the grass. Mark Kalin giving him a little bit of a push. See, that's going to make a shallow entrance for Kalin. Look at him slide up the track, and here comes Brandon T. Adams in the 43 car underneath him.
And just like that, the Adams family racing machine able to take advantage. And that's also the difficult part. If you don't time up the pass right and don't get clear, that allows everybody else to get closer onto you. and puts you up for grabs for one of them to try and pass. And most times, if you don't complete the pass, say, on the lead car, you're likely losing a spot or two if you lose the bottom afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said when I was doing the track description, it's so hard to pass here, but it's so easy to lose multiple spots per lap.
Right now, this grouping still losing a bit of time compared to the leaders, 53.2s. The leaders are still in the 52.5s as Regan Jr. takes away the bottom. This is for the lead. Acosta trying to keep it on the high side. No. Move the AthleteBooker.com eSports machine to the point for the first time today.
Lots of similarities between the track he won at last week at Pocono, up at Long Pond, Pennsylvania, and this track here today at Indianapolis. Long straightaways. You got to be very technical getting into the turns. Regan's got a lot of momentum from last week to carry over and use to his advantage tonight.
And remember, the back-to-back defending series champion since he joined this series at the start of the 2020 campaigns on the iRacing service. He's been dominant. Caution is out for 21st spot. Chad Brown demolished in the 64. And now the window's open for pitting.
Yeah, timed it out pretty nicely for some of these drivers. Looked like Chad Brown went around in the short chute, if I'm correct. I think he hit the wall by himself just to kick this off, yeah.
It looked like Adam Young may have had a tap there. No, it was Adam Shane specifically in those very similar looking machines, the 83.
You know, it looked like both of them touched him, actually. It looked like Adam Schoen came through and then Doyle Lawrence came behind him and hit him as well. Two riding shotgun cars making a bit of contact with him there.
Yeah. Now let's take a look. Shane may have just barely missed it on the second glance. We'll see right here behind this Doyle Lawrence. Doesn't see what's coming in, has his front nose demolished. Big miss here. Big hit behind.
Yeah, we talked about just how narrow this track is, and with the high speeds, even though they've got a little bit lower horsepower now, high speeds still on these cars, it's so hard to jerk them out of the way and get through the clear here.
So as mentioned, fuel window is open from about this mark. Now the question is going to be how everyone else does on the pit stops, because this is the narrowest pit lane in NASCAR Cup Series competition in real life. But it's also 1-2 here in real life in the iRacing service, where it's so easy to speed, so easy to slide your way through the box, and so easy to make mistakes in said pit lane and lose time.
Yeah, we've seen, well, both in the real world and the virtual world, how tricky the pit road here at Indianapolis can be, especially in these wide cup cars. But here they come. Looks like it's just about everyone. They want some 4 fresh Goodyears and especially a full tank of fuel.
And Mark Halen staying out. This looking like to try and lead a lap of note. This is one of the tracks who has, or that rather, I should say, has quickie yellows where they get the 2-to-go signal at the other end of the pit lane, then the 1-to-go signal the upcoming time by. Of note, Wilson Jr. see that red and black machine has been having technical issues throughout the race. He is one of the first drivers off. Chad Brown is also now out of the race after the correct. But everyone up on the jacks for tires and fuel for looking like everybody.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody took a gamble this early on and took 2 tires, but I don't see anyone do that. Abner Acosta not quite going to be able to beat Richard Regan off the pit road. Looks like Bradley Holly, though, is going to get around Daniel Knight for 3rd. What is now 4th with Mark Halen staying out on track.
So good pit stop service there for Holly to be able to jump a spot. Brendan Adams also a net P5. And you see the differences in the pit lane there. The stop, 0.4 of a second quicker, including the time inside the stall for Regan Jr. 46 seconds flat, though, for both of them in the lane on the service. Expecting the 1-to-go signal this upcoming time by. Now the question's going to be here, though, if Mark Halen stays out here, because if he comes down, he'll get an end of longest line penalty for entering a closed pit. If he does stay out here, Nicholas, he's a sitting duck on this restart, because The tires even out if you have a green flag run around up to 3 laps difference, 8 to 10 laps into a run. Not the case for obvious reasons on the short run.
Yeah, he's probably still going to be feeling that difference. The question is, just how important is that clean air going to be, and just how much advantage is that going to give Mark Kalin? We saw Kalin get aggressive. We saw him try to go down all the way to the grass. He was one of the only guys that heard me on the broadcast, took my advice, and was trying to be aggressive. It kind of bit him. He slid up a couple times with those shallow entries, but he's at least trying something, and I applaud him for that. Especially if we got a couple more yellows, he might be this might be a net gain for him.
Now keep in mind, it is still going to be fairly tight on the field overall, even though we're at that field mark. So there may be some drivers at the field save the most. Some drivers have been able to make about 41 laps. Colton Lang topped off. Mark Kalin, though, stayed out on the old tires, electing not to risk taking the end of longest line penalty. So that means Kalin's the control car, Regan Jr. the outside of row 1 for the restart. Holly Acosta, Knight Adams, O'Brien Cervantes, Daniels Felton inside the top 10 for the green flag flies. And this is going to be very difficult here once they get off into turn 1 and 2, Nicholas, because of how different the apex speed's going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see. And I'm also wondering, is Mark Kalin going to spin the tires? I don't know if the tires are going to be old enough to do that, if they're going to be worn enough to do that. Remember, it's still very hot out on track, 114 degrees. It was only 7 or 8 laps that he was out there, but it's still going to be a pretty they're going to be pretty worn down, and he's got to be careful here to get the jump. He wants to get a clean jump, wants to get the whole shot in the clean air, but he's just got to keep that car pointed in the right direction first and foremost.
Drivers being warned to be careful on this upcoming start, too, with the old tires up in front. Of note, Colton Lane, as we noted, topping off, is in 25th position for this upcoming restart. Backing up really far off the safety car this time. Pace car is off and down. It is Mark Kalin in the Jim's Body Shop machine. Off and away, green flag is held for the second time. And Regan Jr. jumped right down to the bottom line. Curious if that's going to be discussed there. That holds on to second for him. As a result, his contact. Up the track goes Holly. He holds onto it, but he's got left side damage.
That's going to hurt Holly big time, but what a smart move from Richard Regan Jr. getting down to the bottom, and look at the run he's got at the exit of turn 2. Here he comes to the lead, and he's going to bring Abner Acosta with him. Acosta might be splitting the difference. No, he's going to give a little bit of a shove to the leader in the 46 car.
Backs up as Kalin gives the space. Sacrifice the bottom. Let's look on board again. Massive difference on the tires. You see right here, this apex is where he loses all the speed, and it's very tight. Nearly slid into the car coming below. Daniel Knight now peeking to the left side.
Yeah, that's worse than I thought. This is going to be a long day for Mark Kalin if we stay green for 10 more laps or so. He's going to be really desperate to come in. He would love to see a caution here, especially in the back of the field, as you see Bradley Holly, even with the damage he accumulated there, he's going to be sailing past him like he's standing still. And who is that he's holding up back there? Brandon T. Adams getting held up badly by Kalin on the outside.
Yeah, starting to get boxed in. There's the peak now to the left side. Finds a hole behind Daniels. Cervantes also able to get clear. O'Brien also clear. Felton, Bisson Jr. in the line. Scotty Johnson and Pat Harvey also falling on the bottom. Now it's Mike Knight, though, stuck on the top line in the 68. Nowhere to go.
Man, this is a 2.5-mile version of Martinsville right now for Mark Kalin, stuck on the outside with old tires. He's getting freight trained on the inside. We might see a little bit of 3 wide. No, they're going to duck back behind him 2 wide there. Pretty smart move, but that's Pat Harvey just barely wanting to stick his nose in the middle. He's got to be careful. That's the 23 underneath him of Brett Adams, who's going to have a real bad entry into turn 2 now.
Big bobble now for Brett Adams. Loses several positions. Special paint scheme for Charles Sumner drives by. Josh Slade drives by. Blaine Adams also drives by. Now stuck side by side with Medina as we look again. There's the later arc for Harvey. Able to keep the bottom side, pushing the Ford Mustang up the track. And now the revolving door again is open now for everybody else.
Just a disastrous restart there for Kalen. I thought he'd be able to hold on at least for a little bit, but he has fallen outside the top 15 now.
Before that caution flag goes around the top 8, so a disastrous decision made by Kalen. Up front, though, Acosta feeling the effects of the aero push, lost a 10 through 1 and 2 this past time by.
Both these leaders with fresh tires, but one thing they could learn from that is that if this thing gets down to a late race caution with about 3 or 4 to go, they might know whether or not they want to take 4 tires or stay out for track position after watching Mark Kalen fall through the field that badly. So a lot of drivers might be taking notes, especially if they've got crew chiefs in their ear, letting them know exactly what's happening with this track surface and these tires not lining up very nicely for these drivers today.
On that note, 2 drivers have elected to take spotters. Acosta has a spotter. Jay Felton also has a spotter of note. Felton +1 in P9. Biggest mover so far is the 33 of Blaine Adams, who's all the way back in 17th position. But again, this is also the difficult part with some of the battles, Nicholas. We've talked about trying to be smart with some of the moves. At the same time, if someone's losing touch with the rest of the group, it can bunch everybody up to the point where Knight's losing a 1/10 of a second to the top 2. That's now lost them 1.1 seconds. Groupings like this, they've already lost 4/10 to the group we just mentioned that's led by Knight and company.
Yeah, prime example of that. We saw just how quick Bradley Holly was in that first stint. That damage doesn't seem to be bothering him at all. What seems to be bothering him is the fact that Daniel Knight is holding him up just a little bit here for 3rd place, that last step on the podium. I wouldn't be surprised if Holly could actually chase down the leaders. He just has so much dirty air to overcome right now.
That was a peek towards the battle, by the way, for P9. We're just discussing Adams, Brandon Adams specifically, is up to that spot. But here's the look with Holly. Not visible, it looks like, from the hood quite per se, just a tiny bit on the left side. But he's been trying that lower arc throughout all of these corners and been able to make it stick fairly well. It's just the fact that it's hurt him on corner exit. It's also something to think about with the tire, where if you take a flatter entry, Nicholas, it can also cook a bit of the right front.
Yeah, it definitely can. And if you do that over and over and over again, especially if it stays green, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be wishing you had that right front still. These drivers got to keep that in mind. We saw a lot of cautions last week at Pocono, but so far a very orderly race here in Indiana.
Coming to 32 laps to go this upcoming time by. Now to think about the damage, though, on the left side of Holly's car. It's something we've discussed a little bit in the past, Christian Challenger and I, specifically when drivers get more so on the right side, when there's a lot of the hits to the wall. That affects the speed, but the left side was something I've heard some of the NASCAR drivers bring up when they had damage from their race just this past week, where the damage on the left side made the car plowing tight on corner exit.
Yeah, and a lot of times that left front, it gets tucked in the slipstream. We might see Bradley Holly struggle a bit more if he did have clean air. So he might not be able to charge up to Acosta and Regan, like I said originally. After all, you see just how tight he got there behind Daniel Knight. But, you know, with that right side damage, we see that a lot at Daytona and Talladega. Really hurts because when you're turning, it's the right front corner that's sticking out in air, even if you're behind someone. Here, the left front, it can kind of tuck in behind a little bit of the turbulence that Daniel Knight's producing in front of him in the 17.
And they're losing about a 1/10.5 to 2/10 of a second a lap to the top 2 in Regan Jr. and Acosta on the track. Holly already dropping back. James O'Brien, though, you see him in the backdrop in that red, black, and whitish machine, is slowly creeping on in, running 53.1s last time by. But with this battle, and Holly starting to drop back, is starting to get it within the draft to make it a 3-car scrap.
Yeah, if Holly's getting kind of stuck behind Daniel Knight, wouldn't be surprised if we saw more drivers. Like you said, you get stuck behind someone in that dirty air, it's just going to reel more drivers in, no matter where you are on the track.
Mark Kalen has decided to abort his strategy. He's now pitted in the 62 machine. Also got right side damage, so that call to stay out for the lead lap did not work out in the very slightest for him. From what was a top 10 run in one of his best seasons in this series, has now gone to a disastrous run to the Brickyard.
Yeah, disaster to say is the right word. Maybe it's an understatement here, because here come the leaders. He's going to lose a lap doing this, and really almost 2 laps when you think about it. By the time he gets back out there, Richard Regan Jr. probably already going to be halfway down the backstretch. It's going to be a real impressive task if Mark Kalen's able to fight back here to get to the lead lap and then come back maybe in the top 15 or top 10. That's going to be a tall order for him.
The leaders now starting to separate a bit as Acosta now really shoving off the corners. So tight you can see it's bobbling off some of the corners, trying to avoid the walls. But I want to note one thing. We talked about Colton Lane topping off on fuel. It still could be tight, because when they came down the pit lane itself, it was around 42-ish to go. The green came, yes, at 40. But they may be right at the very end of the tank, Nicholas, if this race goes to the very end.
Yeah, then we might be talking about Mark Kalen a little bit differently if he's the only one out there with fuel. But another thing is that some of these drivers, you see like Charles Sumner there, Mike Knight back there, they're saving fuel a little bit in the draft. They're really off the throttle in these turns, a lot more than the guys out in clean air. So they might be in front of them.
Pat Harvey slaps the wall. Brandon Adams forced to check up, loses a spot to Sumner. Mike Knight also dives on through. So that was a tank slapper and a half for the 67 as he apologizes to his competitors for that.
He's already out of the groove. And just a little bit of contact. Then he hit that driver that came through. That's the 43 of Brandon T. Adams. Yeah, Brandon Adams has a lot of left front damage as well.
Yeah, that is a ton of damage actually on Brandon Adams' car. You can see how crushed in that left front is. He got the very worst of the two of that. Still, though, able to get the pass, it looks like. Attempt to no.
Ooh.
Can't get the run as Harvey gives the squeeze. Here comes Josh Slade, now held up. Colton Lane now tries to take advantage for a spot.
That's what understeer looks like out there, and this is going to hurt Josh Slade because he's going to be stuck behind him. Colton Lane's going to love this. The Waterback Racing driver down to the inside. He's going to have a nice run to turn number 3 here. He's going to be able to get around Brandon Adams, it looks like. Is he going to be able to hold the inside, though? Oh, he can. He can get through easily.
Yeah, Adams has definitely got a problem with that left front. And that can also potentially cause temp issues as well as issues in the draft to try and build up speed. Now Slade nearly pushed up as Brett Adams hits Slade. Contact. Caution is out. Brett Adams spins into the pit lane.
Just a big domino effect coming out of turn number 4. And it just... Brandon Adams, the one with damage, the one that's able to scoot away from it all. It's Josh Slade nosing it straight into the outside wall. And like you said, Brett Adams spinning down into the pit lane, and he made some big contact with the wall down there.
Yeah, that was a massive bobble. So tight it got loose off the corner. Sent Slade spinning, but then Steven Durbin from 20 car lanes back tried to slow down and had no idea with the smoke that he was there.
That is a really tough break. I remember this happening to Kurt Busch in the real world just a couple of years ago here. Very similar situation with Clint Boyer. Had nowhere to go, had no clue what was in front of him. The spotters couldn't tell him either. So much smoke there, and, well, he ended up in the fence and tumbling over end over end.
So, at the very least, Durbin with a blown engine on that one. Slade also with significant damage. Brett Adams with, at the very least, his speeding penalty for sliding down that pit lane. But the caution flag means everyone has the chance to take 4 tires. And for the ones who either botched the strategy or elected to top off, say, Colton Lane, who's actually gained spots throughout that run, this kind of puts them back in a box where they lose total positions on this run.
Yeah, definitely. It's from here. It's going to be pretty much pure racing to the end. I don't think we're going to see any strategy play here, unless we have a late caution. You could see maybe a 2-tire stop or something. But right here, I I can't imagine taking anything but 4 tires and filling that tank up at least enough to get you 25 more laps to the end of the race.
At the very least, yes. Second caution flag of the race. Richard Regan Jr., Acosta, Knight, Hawley, O'Brien inside the top 5 as here they come. The bright side, if you're a fan of Mark Halen, he's the lucky dog as a result of the caution flag, so he's now bailed out with that caution flag.
It'll get him back to the lead lap. He's still going to have to make his way up through from the very tail end of the field, but yeah, disaster averted just a little bit. Some of the disaster averted, at least. We'll see if all of these front runners can have a clean stop, because this could very well be the money stop if we stay green from the rest of the way here.
Everyone's starting to roll into their stalls. Very difficult to make sure you don't
Acosta.
overrun the box. Yes, he overran it.
That's going to hurt him big time here. We're going to see just how much he loses. Just now taking left sides. Oh, he's far behind.
1 spot, 2 spots lost. Making about 3. That was 3 wide for P3. I believe Acosta got the edge over Hawley and Felton, though, before the squeeze. But that's going to leave, on the bright side, move Acosta to the bottom. The bad side is it moves Daniel Knight now to the top, and we've seen, depending on how comfortable you are, you can actually give a decent squeeze to hold on by corner exit off turn 2 off the jump on the top side.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he got that position over Jay Felton coming out of the pit lane there. I believe he might have done it. He's being scored in front of him for now, but behind Daniel Knight and Richard Regan Jr., so could have been a lot worse if he wasn't in that very first pit stall.
1 to go this time by expected. Several drivers did get damage repair under this caution. Doyle Lawrence, Mark Halen just taking his service now with the lucky dog. Adam Young, Brent Adams, Josh Slade still running, getting repairs technically in the pit lane. Stephen Durbin also getting damage repair done here. But the biggest mover now inside the top 10 is Jay Felton overall. Give credit still to Blaine Adams, now a +9, Nicholas, for one of the Adams family racing machines.
Yeah, it's one of the drivers that's been able to find a way to get through the field. Some of these drivers, especially if they have a little bit of open wheel experience on the oval, it's not just Indianapolis. You know, it could be Texas or Michigan or another track like that. They're able to find a way to really work the throttle control here. You shouldn't really ever be on the brake in this package at this track unless you got to check up for someone in front of you, but
or drag the brake.
Yeah, that too. Some of these drivers, it could very well work out for them.
We'll have to see how this all shapes out. Josh Slade now has officially pulled his car behind the pit lane and down Gasoline Alley. He's now done for the race. He's the 4th DNF. Stephen Durbin also has now pulled his car behind the wall for the race. Brett Adams, the only driver 1 lap down, but up at the front. Reagan Jr., Knight, Acosta, Felton, Hawley, Cervantes, O'Brien, Daniels, Bisson Jr., Scotty Johnson rounds out the top 10. 23 laps to go. Your thoughts so far on this race as we already passed halfway?
It's been really interesting. We're kind of stalling out between the long run and the short run. I don't really know if we could classify those 2 green flag stints as either one of them. We saw a shorter run and then we saw a bit of a longer run, and I'm curious to see if the maybe the urgency is going to get ramped up here just a little bit now that we're more than halfway through here. They're about to come through turn number 4 and head our way down the front straightaway here.
So the top grouping, Ford, Chevy, Ford, Chevy. Sounds like a hip-hop song, to say the very least, in terms of the beat. With the pace car ready to drop off, fielding control of Richard Regan Jr. And this time it's a 3 count. Off and away, Richard Regan Jr. with a great jump on the green.
That great jump, though, is going to allow Daniel Knight to have a good entrance into turn number 1. He's going to be able to stay in second place there. He's going to be able to stay in front of Abner Acosta. That's the big key to success there for Daniel Knight on that restart.
Absolutely good jump for Knight. Off the corner. Here comes the draft. Acosta now peeks to the left side, all the way to the grass nearly, as he has to back off. Knight tries to take a peek to the inside for the race lead.
Gets to the inside. Can he hold it? No, he's going to have to back off just a little bit, and here comes Acosta. Is he going to make a charge down into turn number 4? He's going to take a peek. Knight's going to slam the door, and Regan's going to scoot away here with the lead.
And Bradley Hawley's now joined the fun as well, make it now a 4-car fight for the race lead. Remember, Hawley made contact with Acosta on the last restart and lost several positions. Now Knight again on the bottom side. A huge squeeze from the 46. The AthleteBooker.com eSports machine trying to still hug the top line. Knight still trying to send it right down to the rumble strips as he clips the bump.
I thought those left side tires were going to be completely up on those rumble strips down there, the curve down there in turns 1 and 2. Somehow he keeps the run going. He's going to have the advantage, it looks like, the preferred line heading down into turn number 3. Regan's going to get off the gas early, try to diamond the corner. Maybe we can see him come back as Hawley's moved up to 3rd.
Just as Knight was trying to make the pass, Hawley was able to get the draft to get by Acosta in a similar move. And now Knight leading his first laps of the race at Pocono, led 3 laps. But as we talked about, stayed inside the top 3 the entire night. As well, he just so happened to win by more than 3 seconds in the PRL Truck Series race this past Wednesday, Nicholas.
Yeah, and Daniel Knight, you saw him try to weave and break the draft on the front straightaway. He actually had some sparks fly up. He touched the wall at corner entrance. You can do that a little bit, just can't get too greedy with it. But he is not being let go here by Richard Regan Jr. all over the back bumper of him. Regan's not going to come down and play the draft game with him, and in fact, he's almost able to get to his outside.
Shoves the door on the bottom side once again. Regan Jr., though, all over the back bumper. 20 laps to go this time by.
Ooh, bit of a bobble from Bradley Hawley as well.
And Regan Jr. still not sitting on the inside. Actually shoves him into the corner. Up the track goes Daniel Knight. Contact gives him the door. Knight holds onto it, saves it. Here comes Hawley for second.
He's going to lose that one for second, and Acosta with a bad restart is going to be there. They're going to be side by side down the back straightaway. It's going to be Daniel Knight, though, who has a bit of slipstream from the 184 of Bradley Hawley. That's going to bring him pretty much even heading into turn number 3. We'll see if he gets boxed in there. He does. He jumps back, and Acosta slips down underneath him. He's going to bump him back to 4th place.
And now Knight's got a problem. He's got the similar damage we talked about on the left front, a bit more severe than what Hawley had. Now clips the rumble strips. Here comes Jay Felton now trying to get a run for the top 5.
Oh, he's all out of sorts. Felton's going to have a great run here on the front straightaway. Does he have that look into turn number 1, though? He's there, at least in the mirrors. Now he's alongside him, trying to get that pedal down, trying to get clear of him here after the short shoot. But still side by side. It's a drag race at 160 miles an hour through a 90-degree turn.
Felton not able to stick it, though. Here comes O'Brien. O'Brien wants to try and get by Knight. They've already lost half a second in this fight for P4 on the racetrack. Looking like O'Brien wants this battle to try and clear up, to try and reel back in the top 3. Joshua Daniels also in this train. Robert Bisson Jr. also hooked on as the caboose.
Knight hits the wall a little bit, entering turn number 3 again. I'm seeing more and more right side damage accumulate on that 17 car. He's got to be careful with that if he wants to at least recover somewhat here from these mistakes he's made.
Let's take a look at the intervals on the bottom right corner of your screen. They're separated amongst the group by 0.4 of a second. Scotty Johnson also now within the draft as well. However, he's now stuck in a side-by-side battle with Danny Cervantes, you see in the backdrop. That's now lost him that interval. In fact, Zemke right now side-by-side as Johnson's trying to get the draft back and the rest of the cars in front.
Yeah, Adam Zemke and Danny Cervantes were all the way down to the grass. Now Cervantes might be paying for that a little bit because Pat Harvey is behind him. Don't think he's going to be able to make the pass stick. We're riding on board with Zemke now. He's still focused on getting up and around Scotty Johnson in front of him for 9th place.
For Zemke, a +5 on the race. Started in 15th position. The gap to the leader, 2.8 seconds. Right now, his pace running around the 52.9s. Up towards the front, Hawley side by side. This is for second.
Acosta on the outside here. He has not gone to the inside. He's going to try to get this pass on the outside, and he's able to do it. He pinches Hawley down to the bottom. That's a strong move from Abner Acosta. I'd be worried if I was Richard Regan Jr. seeing that in your mirror.
Hawley had a bobble coming off of turn 4 last time by. That helped set up the run for Acosta. And now Hawley swung to the loose side almost, it seems like. Some drivers have talked about with how this track has been in this package with the current tire model in iRacing, the cooler the track gets, the looser it can potentially get compared to in previous years, it being the opposite. That's now set up Daniel Knight now for a run to take it back, P number 3.
Gonna get to the inside here. Don't forget about Jay Felton. He's had a quiet race, but a good race up inside the top 5. After starting in 10th, like you mentioned, and he is ready to pounce if anything should happen in front of him. In fact, there he goes, down to the bottom.
Felton using his spotter for all it's worth, now 2 wide. Still very flat on the corner entry. Has to back up the corner hard. This allows Joshua Daniels back into the fight. James O'Brien also watching in the wings. Those are the 2 AthleteBunker.com eSports machines in that group. This battle featuring Riding Shotgun, an independent, as well as those 2 team cars. Also, don't forget about the SGE eSports machine of Robert Bisson Jr., who has right side damage in this group. And Hawley's definitely not looking too comfortable in that race car right now. Nicholas has bobbled off every single corner exit for the past 5 laps.
Yeah, he's one of those drivers that I think is hoping for a caution. He's one of those drivers that might be strong on the short run, but now that we've been going strong green flag at full pace here for a few laps, he's really starting to struggle. He doesn't want to lose any more positions. He's done a good job defending Daniel Knight for now, but with Knight's a bit of an impairment there on that car, and you gotta wonder just how strong both of them are running right now. They're losing a lot of time to Acosta and Regan for the lead.
Yeah, the gap now between second and third about 9/10 of a second. Again, the drop being lined up by Knight. Still can't get back to the inside. There was a change for position, though, behind them for 6. James O'Brien passed his teammate Joshua Daniels on the inside. Bisson Jr. tried to follow through. Could not do that. That's why there's a bit more separation. Instead of a 6-car pack, it's now 2 groups of 3. At this point, though, it could get intriguing to see how passes like this could shape things up. Knight back to P3, and now Hawley's got right and left front fender damage. Felton takes advantage.
Yeah, let's take a look at this again. Get a good sense of what happened here to Bradley Hawley. He just all over the place, you know. He just can't get that car settled down.
I see right there, tried to arc it into the corner and just instead turned it straight to the wall. And it's so easy to do when it comes to the short shoot because you want to, in some cases, almost arc it to touch bit to the right, then arc it down to the left. Seen earlier, to example, Cale Gale, former NASCAR driver, do that and dominate by using that type of line.
Bradley Hawley is going to have a very long 13 laps if this is any indication of that, of how that car is handling. You got to wonder, though, what are some of the other drivers doing differently? Is Hawley being a little bit too aggressive here? And if Regan and Acosta are holding on and conserving and with a little bit of clean air, when's that going to vanish for him?
And mind you, Regan Jr. is pulled away by now 9/10 of a second. Acosta's fallen off a cliff by 1/10 of a second with the push. Knight scrapes the wall a touch with the right rear. Felton now getting held up. The problem is, and this is one of the difficult parts when it comes to fixed series racing, it comes down in part how well you save the tires, but as well, the confidence of the driver and how they're able to time up their runs. Felton's not been able to build up enough momentum to try and get to the inside line to get this pass done, despite the fact He's been checking up for nothing on some of these corner apexes, especially in 2 and 4. What can he do at this point, Nicholas, then?
He's going to have to pray for a caution, but also, you know, you're going to have to, you know, try something differently. You can't run the same line, or well, you can run the same line, but you got to approach these corners differently, and that approach can evolve over time. You got to maybe back off the corner or back off the throttle a little bit earlier. Maybe you can try to get on the gas, and maybe if you're blipping the throttle, you know, maybe try to hold it with a little bit of drag brake like you mentioned. Try something different. Play around, see what works. If you're losing positions, you're only going to lose it more. You might as well, you know, try something and learn here. You've got about 10 laps left, and defense here is pretty easy compared to a lot of other tracks.
By the way, on this onboard, down that straightaway, it was only about a half a mile an hour quicker by the corner entry. That's how even these two have been down some of the straights, as Felton feels a bit of arrow push, has to bobble off the corner to avoid the wall at that time. 10 to go this time by, and Regan Jr. putting on a clinic. He did the same thing, mind you, at Pocono. Once he got to clean air, he ran away before some of the caution flags in that race. He's the fastest car on the track, 0.2 quicker than P2, 1/10 quicker than everybody else that's finding third on back. And Nicholas, this is just what Richard's been doing all season.
Yeah.
This is right now, if he can hold on, a potential possibility of going 3 for 4 to start off 2020 Season 3. And the only race he didn't win, at Chicagoland, he had a penalty.
And the crazy thing is, his lap times aren't even, you know, I checked his lap times. I expected to see nothing special. He's still faster. Getting faster, well, not necessarily getting faster, but compared to everyone else, you know, he's not falling off nearly as fast. Somehow he's able to keep conserving and keep putting the hammer down on these drivers, and it's so impressive to watch. I don't know what anyone else can do. Not too much strategy is going to be able to be played here, especially if we stay green, but it'll definitely be something these drivers will have to keep in mind fighting with Richard Regan Jr. throughout the rest of the season.
Felton has taken P3, by the way. That was last time by, while O'Brien trying to get by Hawley. Hawley able to floor it into the corner entry, but clips the rumble strips on the apex. So Hawley looking to hold on to a top 5. Remember, Hawley, O'Brien, and the rest of these drivers in this fight, they're trying to hold on to points in a close championship battle. Hawley again taps the wall. O'Brien now with a run after the snap of oversteer for Hawley.
So there's just another position that Holly's going to end up losing. Oh, but look at this. Very early off the gas for James O'Brien. That allows Holly to have a big run on the outside. If they stay side by side, that's going to allow Josh Daniels and Robert Besaw Jr. to close in really quickly. You can already see them eating up that gap. O'Brien's going to be behind him, but he's going to already step out of line. He wants to get this pass done before he gets to the turns. That's not going to happen.
Caution flag is out as Adam Shane has spun around. The 83 gets help through the exit of turn 1 as Brandon T. Adams hits his left rear and sends him sliding to the inside wall.
Adam Shane, he was very close to hitting Blaine Adams in front of him. Did a great job getting off the gas there, and then all of a sudden Brandon T. Adams came up so quickly. Just gave him that slightest of touches here that you'll see. There he goes, just sideways. Punts him down into the infield or inside wall there.
And that slide right there enough to trigger it as that second hit towards the outside wall is part of the reason why blocking up the brakes is important. But this is now the money stop and then some, likely the last time anyone will have to duck down to this race. With how much at this point the tire wear will be fairly even on 2-lap tire difference if we get a shorter run. In other words, you can't make a mistake here. This would be a restart with about 4 to go.
Yeah, and this is going to be pretty interesting. I can't imagine taking 2 tires or no tires as a driver, but I wouldn't put it past some of these drivers that are a lot faster than me. I think we might see maybe a couple drivers try it, and if not, if everyone has fresh tires, you're either going to want to line up first, ideally, or you're going to want to line up third. like Jay Felton right now, because second place is not the place to be right now on this restart.
These drivers ran about 19 laps on the tires. Brett Adams, of note, that car on the high side, 3 laps down, had to come down for damage repair, significantly damaged front end. He'll try and get the wave, it appears, as everybody else down to the pit lane for their final stops of the race. Already a big checkup, though. Acosta, dead even on 60, was a bit slower at the commitment cone, and Felton and Knight are all over the back bumper of each other.
That's good news for Regan. He can get into his pit stop. He can take some time. Good stop for Felton. Acosta slid through the box last time. Oh, he's pretty much perfect this time, though.
Still a bit slower, though, for the team to get onto the jack.
Yeah.
And apparently, he may have gotten a black flag on the pit entry.
Oh, no.
Looking for clarification. Off and away, Reagan Jr. comes out first, but apparently Acosta may have had something happen in that pit lane sequence.
Trying to see what that was.
He actually went to 57 miles an hour at one point.
Yeah, definitely not speeding.
We'll see once they get to the end of the access road, and yes, peeking off towards the left side, and we'll have to see.
I see him blip over 60 for a split second, but you get a
you know
little
what?
bit of
you know
an
that
allowance.
22? That car, the wave around 23, rather, Brett Adams, I think he passed him coming to the pit lane.
Oh, I bet you're right. Not allowed to pass the cars that stay out on track. Gotta hold your position, and maybe that's why we saw such a big checkup. Maybe he was trying to do that, but that 23 just did not go. I think he realized his mistake, he backed off the gas, and it was too late. iRacing had caught him.
We'll try and show this right here. This again, a little bit further back on the pit entry. And keep in mind that machine, you have to keep behind the specific car until you get the exact trigger for jumping down the pit lane. Most times, you don't see a black flag for a situation like that. This is one of the few times we've seen this happen because right when they get right here, they don't get the notification of they're down the pit lane to right about there. He already passed them. That's where the black flag comes from.
And Indianapolis is notorious on iRacing for this situation. This is not the first time this has happened, but it's definitely a costly one.
He's come down and to serve the black flag to go to the end of the longest line. So Acosta, who was in line for a top 5 run, just got shuffled down all the way back to P21. 1 to go into the restart, but man, that is huge for the points. On this restart, though, Nicholas, it's about to get crazy with now Felton on that outside line to start, and we've seen how aggressive Zemke in the 42 was for some of the passes when he was in the second and third groups.
And we've seen one of the drivers who's been on the inside more than most other drivers today is Daniel Knight. He knows how to get it done on the inside through these turns, especially with fresh tires. I don't know if that damage is going to hurt him much at all. He's just going to have to ignore it here because he's going to have a strong advantage. He's got to get on that loud pedal, on the throttle quickly, have a great reaction to the 46 of Richard Regan Jr. We're about to see as they're about to come out of turn 4.
Regan Jr. last time, he was in control of the field, had a 3 count. This time, nearly a tap from behind. Daniel Knight all over the back end of the Ford Mustang. Green flag is out. 4 laps to go for the Brickyard. Great jump for the bottom side. Felton caught sleeping as everyone tries to get underneath the 5.
I think Felton might have been trying to back off just a little bit to get to the inside. He'll get to the inside eventually, but it's not going to happen now because he's completely blockaded down there. Now he finds the line, but it's Daniel Knight who gets the second place. What kind of run is he going to be able to get on the backstretch? Gets a little bit sideways coming out of turn 2.
And here comes the break of the slipstream a bit to the bottom of the racetrack. Remember, when these two were fighting for the race to lead amongst one another, It was Regan Jr. who made contact with his right side door to Daniel Knight, pushed Daniel Knight up the racetrack, gave him left side damage. Now with 3 laps to go, Knight has a chance to rip away the victory from Regan Jr.
There was a little bit of a bobble from Richard Regan Jr. in the short chute there, but it's not nearly enough to allow Daniel Knight to capitalize on it. Knight's going to be able to get a bit of a toe down the front straight, but 3 laps to go. He's going to have to really get lucky here, really hustle here to catch Regan.
10th of a second quicker, Daniel Knight was with the draft. Quicker than anybody else as well. By 0.2 were these top 2 cars. They have run away from Jay Felton, Bradley Holly by a touch. They've also pulled away to make it a 4-car scrap for the race victory. 2 to go this time by.
Regan trying everything he knows to do. Like from the textbook, coming down and trying to get that slipstream, trying to not allow Regan to break the draft, but he is still, you see him slide up there. That's how hard he's pushing there, trying to catch the 46.
Felton perforating the top wall. Knight again taking a peek to the middle of the racetrack this time. Approaching just about 5 miles left to go in this race. Knight looking tight. Regan Jr. looking loose in the clean air. Back down the back straightaway. Once again, trying to make his way a peak as more contact. Knight scrapes with the right rear. Back to the bottom near the grass.
He's got to watch out for Felton. If Felton makes a move to the inside here on Daniel Knight, it's going to be game over, I think. I think Regan's going to be able to get away with it.
Jay Felton's been able to reel these drivers back in. Was the quickest out of the 3 last time. White flag this time by at the stripe. If they get it, the race is official. Knight clips the rumble strips. He bobbles up the track. Loses half a tenth as Regan Jr. passes by the Bagoa. White flag is out. 1 to go for the Brickyard.
Daniel Knight's going to have to be smart here. He's going to have to hold on to the 2nd place. The win is not going to come, I don't think, at Regan's pace. We'll see what kind of run he gets down the backstretch, but if he can't make anything of it, he can't be too aggressive here through 3 and 4 because he's going to lose positions to Felton and Holly in a hurry.
Separated by 0.2. Down to about 2 car lengths. Can Knight get to the back bumper? Final set of corners. Knight with the harder corner entry. Bobble again from Regan Jr. Regan Jr. with clean air in front. No traffic ahead. Knight can't get to him. Checker flag waves. And for the 3rd time in 4 races, Richard Regan Jr. takes home a victory in the PRL Cup Series, this time at the Brickyard.
Some great side-by-side behind him. Josh Daniels getting Besaw Jr. at the line. We had some 3-wide action further back as Adam Zemke actually going to go spinning through turn number 1. There was a 3-wide finish back for, it looks like, 10th place.
Things got very aggressive back there. You seen Scotty Johnson bobble a little bit. That was amongst the battle. That came 3 wide to the entry of turn 3. Take a look. You can see Zemke saying yeehaw after the contact. That's because of how aggressive it got amongst that grouping during the white flag going down the back straightaway into turn 3 in part.
For 11th, 12th, and 13th place, it was a 9/1000ths of a second gap from Zemke back to Pat Harvey, and then another 100th of a second back to Adam Young as they were 3 abreast coming across the bricks.
By the way, for AthleteBooker.com eSports, it is now a 4-for-4 start as a team in the PRL Cup Series. As Regan Jr. does burnouts on top of the bricks. We'll take a quick break. Post-race coverage coming up after these messages. You're watching the Global SimRacing Channel live from the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Speedway, Indiana. Welcome back to the virtual Brickyard for post-race coverage of the Precision Racing League Cup Series. Sponsored by Diecast Kings, Road Trip Transport and ButtKicker, and ground support by FEG PC. It was a wild finish amongst the drivers, but for Richard Regan Jr., it was another dominant performance, his third victory in 4 rounds in 2020 Season 3. 39 laps led all the way to the checker flag, beating Daniel Knight by more than a tenth of a second. Jay Fountain rounded out the top 3. He charged up from a top 10 starting position. He started P10 to be precise. Those drivers join us for post-race coverage in a few moments. Bradley Hawley starts in P4. James O'Brien finished in fifth where he started, while Joshua Daniels went from 9th to 6th. Danny Cervantes was aggressive much of the race. It worked out to a P7 finish. Robert Bisson Jr. quietly inside 8th spot. Colton Lane had a poor qualifying run, and even though at one point sacrificed track position for fuel topping off during one of the early caution flag periods, still recovered to a top 10. Scotty Johnson finished in P number 10, Nicholas.
Yeah, I talked about that 3-wide finish between 11th, 12th, and 13th. It's Zemke, Harvey, and Young coming across the line there. Mike Knight and Charles Sumner will round out the top 15. Then Blaine and Brandon Adams will finish 16th and 17th. Doyle Lorant's going to wind up in 18th. And then 2 fast drivers today, Mark Kalin and Abner Acosta, will round out the top 20.
Heartbreaker, to say the very least, for Acosta. A lot of potential frustration on that. Jose Medina, 1 minute behind at the checker flag, finishes 21st. 2 laps down was Brett Adams, while the rest of the field were DNFs. Adam Shane, with the last caution flag trigger after contact coming off of turn 1, sent him spinning, finishes 23rd. Stephen Durbin, 24th, after the crash down the front stretch with Josh Slane and company. Chad Brown was a part of the first caution flag, while David A. Wilson Jr. did get to the starting grid and the front straightaway before having technical issues end his night. But Richard Regan Jr. put on another clinic tonight, leading almost 4/5 of the race. Similar performance to what he did at Pocono last round. Richard, another clinic. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling relieved. I really thought I was gonna get sent on that last restart. I gave Daniel Knight the good old chrome horn earlier because last week and this week I don't appreciate people getting that run down the straightaway, and right before we go into the corner they take the inside and just try to dive bomb you. So he did it to me a lot last week. So I gave him a little bit of payback, and I'm sure he'll give me some payback later on, and he has all the right to be upset about it. But that's racing, and had to show my displeasure a little bit.
Well, there's one of the questions we were going to ask. The next question, what's going through your head as this race progressed? Because, yes, you had a lot of lead laps, but you also had to fight with Abner Acosta much of the race, as well as the pushing and shoving match at sometimes with the 17.
Yeah, that really sucks what happened to Abner. I don't know why that gave him the penalty. He wasn't in front of the lap car when we went down pit road, but he was in front of it a little bit prior to that, so I'm not sure if that's why he got the penalty, but that really sucks for him. He's really strong, and he races me clean and very respectful, so he'll definitely be a threat the rest of the season, and I'm excited to see what he does next week.
Speaking of next week, it's going to be an intriguing one because we've talked about different race tracks and the difficulties of some of them. How about, for the first time in this big setup series, mind you, racing at the newly scanned Kentucky next Sunday?
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm pretty sure it's going to be another barely lifting track, just because of the new pavement, and the track's very wide, so you can get a nice arc going into the corner. We'll see how it goes. You guys know I'm not a fan of these 1.5 and 2.5 mile flat out tracks, so I'm pretty sure after that we go to New Hampshire, so that's really what I'm looking forward to, is Loudon.
With that, anyone you want to thank for your victory?
Yeah, I gotta thank my teammates, James O'Brien and Joshua Daniels. I gotta thank everybody at PRL that puts us on. I gotta thank you guys at GSRC. And then I gotta thank my sponsor, Athlete Booker, for coming on board with me this season, helping me out. Multiple Sclerosis Society, Susan G. Coleman, all the guys at Bobby Dale and Hart Legacy Esports, and yeah, just everybody that watches and tunes in.
Congratulations on the victory. It's your third in 4 races. And by the way, your team's 4 for 4 on the season.
Thanks, guys.
Richard Regan Jr. with the W. Now, Daniel Knight finished off in second. He's standing by with Nicholas, which should be an interesting post-race discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Here with Daniel Knight. Daniel, you got bounced around quite a bit out there, but still you went up to finish second place. Pretty nice recovery for you out there, it looked like.
Yeah, anger is a crazy motivator when it comes to driving race cars, seems.
Absolutely. Did that damage, hurt you too much, or were you still able to overcome it? Looked like you. I'm not sure if the left side, a little bit of left front damage, a little bit of right side cave-in, just from getting bounced around a little bit, shuffled back throughout the middle part of the race, but on that late stint had a great run.
Yeah, I actually didn't even realize the extent of the damage until that last stop when it said I had probably about 10 seconds of optional repairs, but didn't seem to hurt the car too much on that shorter run. Like I said, I wanted to get back up there and get back by Richard and not let him get away with that move. But I'm still have to recover by far, considering how kind of wild the first half of the race was, at least.
You were one of many drivers that struggled making passes out there today. Was it the tires, the dirty air, or a combination of the two?
It's mainly the air, just with these cup cars and those giant spoilers on the back. You can get a real good draft and suck up to somebody, especially on these long straights at Indy. But then when it comes to getting in the corner, it's just like there's that bubble and you can't really get past it. So it was pretty much just setting up passes and trying to get good runs and not overdrive the car once you got underneath of them. But it was definitely not an easy track to make passes on.
Certainly wasn't, but a track that was good to put on a great show, and we applaud you for finishing second place in that great show. But before we let you go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, all the riding shotgun guys. Unfortunately, we had some bad luck this race, but always love racing with those guys. And thanks to Charles and the rest of the PRL guys for putting on awesome leagues. These are by far the best leagues I've raced in on here. So,
yeah. Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you.
That's Daniel Knight finishing second place. Justin, you've caught up with our third and final interviewee of the night, Jay Felton.
Jay, first things first, hard-fought top 3 tonight. How difficult was it to try and get yourself the track position this evening to get yourself into this podium position finish?
Well, it was hard to pass. There's no doubt about that. But I got to tell you, a lot of times I come in here and maybe I'm not all that happy with where I finished, but I'm pretty happy tonight. I mean, I had a 20th place car in practice, and I actually thought about just taking a provisional and just seeing if I could out tire them, and then decided to qualify, and still was 10th, and I think 0.3 off what the leaders were running. So to come home third, and I had a chance to win. I couldn't pull it off, and I didn't have the speed to do it, but I had an opportunity, and I don't know how much more you can ask for than that, Justin.
Absolutely. You mentioned the difficulty with the passing and some of the strategy and the tire management here. What else was some of the difficulties when it came to this package here at the Brickyard? Because it looked like some of your fellow competitors really struggled with some of the aero push, and others nearly pushed themselves into the wall, while others nearly pushed so tight that they nearly snapped off the corner.
Well, what you just said, everything I think is correct. There was some aero push, and you had to set your car up to exit a certain way, and it would help it. The thing that I would mention to you is if you got about 6 or 7 laps into a run and we were all single file, and maybe you got to run on a guy out of 2 or out of 4, you would go out to pass him, and he would have the help of the other guys that were up by the wall, and it felt like you just had lifted off the throttle. I mean, you just couldn't get any momentum by yourself. Luckily, there were a couple of guys that when I went to pass, they decided to help me instead of staying in the safe place. And to those guys that did that, thank you so much. And it didn't always work out for us, but I appreciate it. I appreciate you going with me.
Next race is at the newest version on the iRacing service of Kentucky. Your thoughts on that track?
My thoughts are I better get to work because I don't have a lot of experience there. And, my knowledge of the track is we got 2 different ends. The banking's different on both ends. So I need to get out there and practice and try to find something. I really came here. I thought I had a decent car, but I just couldn't believe it in practice. I couldn't believe I was 20th fastest, and I was laying down everything I had, Justin.
It looked like it absolutely, especially with some of the fights. But is there anyone you want to thank for being a part of your top 5 tonight?
Yes, there is. I want to thank PRL and Charles Sumner. Thanks, Charles, for everything you do for this league and putting up with us. I appreciate you, man. And I want to thank ButtKicker for sponsoring the league. Justin and Nicholas and Sean, thank y'all. GSRC, I really enjoy watching the broadcast. Haven't seen anybody that does the job you guys do. And you really, I know I say this every time that I get the opportunity to talk to you, but it's serious stuff. I mean, you guys are the best there are.
It definitely means a lot to hear that. Thank you very much for the time as well, Jay. Congratulations on the top 5.
Thank you very much.
That was Jay Felton coming on P3. I'd like to thank him, Daniel Knight, and Richard Regan Jr. for taking the time to speak with us after what was an eventful race here at the Brickyard. Nicholas, first things first, real quick, your final thoughts on how tonight's race progressed.
Man, it was really exciting. When I look back and watched that race at Pocono that I missed last week, I was a little bit worried. A similar track, we'd have, a few more cautions in this race. But, man, the competition out there was fantastic, and I'll definitely be tuning in next week to Kentucky.
Speaking of that, it's going to be new for not just us as broadcasters, but new for the drivers, too, because it just came out on the iRacing service last month. Your thoughts on how these drivers will handle the new Kentucky, especially, remember, it's with the repave and the different banking that's in the corners.
Yeah, I'm interested to see Kentucky is known for 2 things, bumps and a very difficult turn number 3 entry. And I'm wondering, just seeing just how different that is. That's going to be the biggest thing to adjust to on that rescan.
See how that all plays out once again, but we'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting action from Indianapolis. We'd also like to thank Charles Sumner and the rest of the Precision Racing League for organizing this strong series. We'd also like to thank tonight's round sponsor, Ford Entertainment PC, as well as the title sponsors for the series, Diecast Kings, Road Trip Transport, as well as ButtKicker. We'd also like to thank the companies that provide the software and hardware, GSRC, for our broadcast listed up on your screen now. Special thanks to Jude Lawn, who provides your wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of our great work. Thanks to the team today in Nicholas and Sean. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including the upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out our merchandise for sale at gsrc.storemvy.com, or check out the social media on GSR Twitter, our GSR channel on Twitter, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram, GSRC_Graham. That's an order to our YouTube page to hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell so you don't miss a moment on the Global SimRacing Channel. Next race for the PRL Cup Series takes place at Kentucky Speedway. Coverage starts at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:50 Pacific, as we get ready to go racing with one of the most difficult, in fact, the most difficult, Turn 3 and the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. We also have upcoming races for other series listed up on your screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. I'll see you on the track.